everybody. Happy Monday. This is Overpass Live. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now this is our live stream where we just hang out and talk about whatever we want to talk about. There's usually no structure. There's no coherence. There's no nothing. There's just show up and we'll see we'll see what happens. It could be 5 minutes long. It could be 5 hours long. Although, to be honest, it's never been 5 hours long. The longest live stream we ever did was like 2 hours, I think. 2 hours and a bit. And it was like, my kids were texting me at the end. It was back when we did on Friday nights. And it was there, okay, Dad, it's pizza night. Come home. It was like, so, yeah, I get hungry after a while. So, well, but we, this is where we hang out and talk about stuff. And it's been a busy couple of weeks since the last time we did one. 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, we had the Queen's funeral. So, it's kind of this thing. That was a Monday, so I thought, should we do the live stream on that day or not? I decided not to, just because I don't know. Like some people, I don't know. That was the thing. Like, would somebody think it was disrespectful to do a live stream on the day of the Queen's funeral? And I don't know if that would actually be the case, but I took the opportunity to slack off a little bit. I've been going through loads of personal stuff, loads of personal stuff, which is just really difficult. I've been, but I'm excited because next week I'm going to be traveling. So I'm going to do the digital nomad thing next week. I'll be in Croatia and I'll try to get some videos done while I'm over there. And I'm really, really excited about it. So the entire week, this last week, I've been trying to do all of my work on a MacBook Air, and at first it was a bit daunting because so my goal was just use the monitor on here and just use the trackpad. So don't use a mouse, don't use another monitor because I got plenty of monitors here, and just do that. And after a while, after like a day, it didn't take long. After like a day, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm fine. Like it was just learning all those different types of all the shortcuts and everything like that. It's been it's actually been kind of fun where I started realizing once I stopped tethering myself to this desk right here, the standing desk, I could work from the kitchen counter. But that was boring after a while because you're just sitting there and you're looking at like, why would I want to? I tried doing it from the windowsill. I thought I stand on the windowsill, I could just code from over here and I could just watch the cars go by. But then the sun comes out and but anyway, I'm getting the hang of it. Next week should be fun. I'm planning on putting a few videos out from Croatia. Oh, and also it's been a tough week just business wise to slim down a bit there too. Friday was just an awful day. It was just an awful day all around. And, if my team's watching, they know why. But, so anyway, but it's good to be here and I'm glad you guys are here. I hope you guys have a really good week. So let's see who's, we got, Kevin's here. Good evening from Lakeland, California. Thank you. Joe's here. Hey, Joe, how's it going? Howdy, Joe. Oh, we're just moseying around here on the live stream. Rachel Reed says, I'm so frustrated spending a week trying to integrate AdMob into my app, but come up to the conclusion that it wasn't worth it until the user base is higher. How many users do you need to make it worthwhile? It's more about the impressions but yeah, I mean, for me, when I was making hundreds a day on it, I was making about 300 a day through AdMob, and it was like through all the through iOS and through Google Play, but Google Play was the one that brought in most of them, and I did not have a high user retention. But I started doing stuff like putting more interstitial ads in, and that really made a big difference. And and that's the thing. It's like you have to sacrifice the usability to put those stupid, ugly ads that nobody likes into there. And you're right. The problem I've had this week, again with AdMob, is that a lot of my existing applications, they're getting removed because of data security policy and all this stuff. So I'm saying the full versions of the app. So I have like the free version and the paid version, and then also have the free version in-app purchases. But it's always been that way. But usually the only configuration change is like a little Boolean flag, and then it's like this is the free version. So the paid version, I just change that flag, compile it, release it for the paid version, change the the package name and everything. But for the free version, it's just basically when they make that in-app purchases, change that flag, and then it's basically everything. The entire application hangs on that one is Pro version or whatever it is, or is Lite version. In different apps, I've done it different ways. I've done it like, it's like the opposite, and it confuses me sometimes. I can't remember, am I checking to see if it's Pro version, or am I checking to see if it's Lite version? So it's whether or not it's true or false or whatever. So anyway, but the problem that I'm having this week is that Google Play is starting to remove some of these apps because I still have the binaries in there. And I think that's what it is. I still have the binaries and the permissions that AdMob requires. And they're saying, you say you're not tracking them, but there's, obviously permissions there that are like, asking for location or whatever. It's not location, but it's like something in there. So now what I have to do, and I'll probably do it, hopefully this weekend, but just go through and start recompiling the paid versions of the app to actually remove those libraries. I have to go through and make sure they all still work. If I remove the libraries and they're no longer within the build, but they're still kind of referenced in using statements, is it still going to cause a problem and all that stuff? So it's something that's on my to-do list. And and I've also been struggling a lot with Xcode this week because the Xcode 14 came out last week, and all my Xamarin stuff kind of stopped working. So I'm doing this whole either downgrading or trying to find out, I'm on Stack Overflow trying to find out, okay, why am I getting this error now all of a sudden? Because everything worked so perfectly like a week and a half ago, and pretty much got through all that stuff. But yeah, I've gotten the same kind of AdMob issues too. And Joe says, Rachel, which problems are you trying to integrate AdMob? Yeah, it's a bit like, I can remember when I did my personal blog way back I think I started in like 2003. I was, looking at doing Google ads in it because why not? And that's kind of the thing when I thought with AdMob, I was like, why not just put them in there, because it's, but then you're right. It's getting more and more difficult just to make them work, just to deal with all the complications of getting those libraries in. The new, you have to have a privacy policy and all this kind of stuff just to get those into the application. And because technically AdMob, you're not tracking them, but the AdMob is tracking them and all this kind of stuff. So you have all that overhead stuff too. However, and my whole thing was always like, I hope you guys can hear me, by the way. Should I check this at the beginning? Could you guys hear me? So my whole thing was like, to give them some incentive to actually upgrade, like even if you're not making a lot through the ads, to give them some sort of incentive to upgrade. But what you could also do is just restrict certain features, or have like in-app purchases that actually unlock stuff, because the whole remove ad stuff never really worked all that well. And Rachel said, basically setting up for a newbie was difficult to follow. Most annoying is Xcode come up with deprecated messages for AdMob. This week, yeah, this is one of those things. If you're not doing an Apple native application, or if you're doing something that's porting something else over, because Xcode changed, you got things that are trying to keep up. Like for me, it's the Xamarin libraries. There's so many things that are like no longer. It's just bringing up strange errors, and it could be a lot to do with that. You might want to try just downgrading to Xcode 13.4, which is what I did. I have both versions on there, and I'm using Xcode Select to switch between the two versions, and it sucks, man. It sucks. First of all, because I keep running out of hard disk space on my hard drive. I think I have too many. I think it's because of the videos. So I'm constantly going through and cleaning out space. And then to download the 10 gigabyte Xcode, a second Xcode version, just so I can use that, is kind of a pain. But yeah, so Flashy is here. Flashy, hey Eric, good to see you. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry, we were waiting for you. We wanted to make sure you were here before we actually did anything cool. But Rachel says, one other question. My app has been on iOS for a few weeks. I can find it using my iPhone, but for some reason I can't find it in the App Store using a browser. Have you ever experienced this? It's a weird one because I always have to do Google. Like I don't know how to find it in a browser using like the search. Like try to look for any application. I could do it through Google and it will bring up the Google Play page. Or if you go into the Xcode, sorry, not Xcode. If you go to App Store Connect and then you go into that one information page, there's usually a link at the bottom to say View in iTunes Connect. If view in the App Store or whatever. They'll have a link to it directly, but I don't know how to search the App Store on the web. Like I've never been able to do it. Like if there is a way to do it, let me know. But I've always just been, I'll go get that link, and then I can include that link in emails or web pages or whatever. But like actually searching for it, it's like when it comes up on the Google stuff. So yes, so that's the way that I've done it. MD says, hey Eric, decided to cut the app title in App Store to 30 characters. Sad face. Oh God. Now I have to come up with a new name to translate to 50 different languages. I'm really pissed off. Yeah, that's the hard bit about doing the translation into different languages. You could use Google Translate, but that's like that's kind of a pain. So I've done that where you could do like just if you use Google Translate, and again it's not the best, but like use Google Translate in Excel sheets, because there's a Google Translate function, and you could just like say on the left side just put in, or like put the name there and then just put the different character codes, RU, KO, KR, whatever, like all the different languages you want to do, and then you could just do the Google Translate from English to that version using that cell, and then drag it down, and you would get all those translations. But again, you're still doing Google Translate. So what I did, I remember going through, and if I had to make one little change, like I had to change a button or add something new, once you translate it in all those different languages, it's like really, really hard to just make a tiny change, like change the text on a button. But yeah, so Flashy's. Talk about like making a change there. Like so I have this application for a client that I've been trying. It's a Flutter application. Flutter is version 2, but like it's using some old Firestore libraries, and I've been trying to compile that thing for like 3 weeks. And then I got it compiled, uploaded it to the App Store, and then it doesn't actually, it just crashes. So it's this one thing where the client asked me, could you just make this little change? I'm like, don't even worry about it. Yeah, I'll take care of it. And that was like a month ago. And it's just because of the Xcode changes. And once I started, my first thing was on pubspec.yaml. I was like, I'll just upgrade all these libraries. And then I spent however long with this one conflicts with this one conflicts with that one, this one. And then finally, when I got through that, all that stuff was like, the way that I'm referencing the Firebase objects in an object that's completely different now. So you have to go through, change these brackets to, whatever, snapshot.data. Now it's just snapshot.whatever. And it was just like, so it's still like this outstanding thing on my stuff. So, and again, it's this one little change. And I'm starting to think, maybe I could just do this on the back end with the Firebase function and never update the app again. But that's not going to fly for very long. Flashy says, I'm currently developing an app with Ionic/capacitor, and I'm facing issues with specific Android phones, especially low-budgeted Xiaomi, Redmi. How do you handle these problems when the framework is limited? Well, Ionic, that's one on the Ionic side, and that's, in terms of with capacitor. So I did a lot of stuff in Ionic version 1. And we've got an Ionic 2 application that for a client that we did years ago. And I said this was a developer in the Philippines who was really good, and then he just disappeared. He just he just decided, screw this, and he was gone. And then but it was fine because the app was released and everything like that. But then it's like little things. We just need to release an upgrade to it, and like I've hired loads of developers. The client has hired developers to look at it and trying to get this thing to compile. And I think there's certain things that just weren't checked in, but I'm sure I was able to do it. I hate having to downgrade to different versions of like Ionic or whatever, or even the Node version manager. Going back, I think we did it in Node version 4, npm, and whatever the npm was with Node version 4. And it's like we can't even release that anymore. It's like it won't even allow it. So I'm not the best. I'm not the biggest fan of Ionic these days, just for those kind of reasons. But I know a lot of people are. And if you say, what kind of issues are you facing actually? Best solution for push notifications when I'm on my own server / backend for the app. Firebase. Firebase is, I like Firebase. I think because you have to use Firebase for Android anyway. It's one of these, like, you don't need to use it for iOS, but when Google Cloud Messenger went to Firebase Cloud Messenger, then you got this weird thing where you got this entire suite of tools over here, and you're just using that one thing, because over here you've already got everything else that's there. Like, I've got my own, whatever, my mean stack or my, ASP.NET stack or whatever, and you're just using that one little thing there. I mean, it's almost, it kind of reminds me of when when Microsoft had the antitrust suit about including Internet Explorer with the platform. So, like, there was no reason to use another browser besides Internet Explorer because you got that. I mean, eventually people did, but it was like a big thing. They were like, so I kind of think that with Firebase sometimes. It's like they're basically forcing you to use their platform, which has everything, just for that one little thing. However, but because they do have it, you could use iOS through Firebase as well. So you could just use both platforms to do there. Now, I've done it in the past where I've used Firebase, I've used Notification Hub on Azure, I've used just written my own, right? And writing your own sucked, right? It just, because you could do like because you have to do all the stuff with the, I can't remember, I think it was Node.js. I feel it was Node.js I did it. But you have to keep track of are they on iPhone or Android? Which API are you going to actually call? All this kind of stuff. And in the end, it was just easier to do it through Firebase for me. So that's my opinion. That's my humble opinion. Kevin says, we're supposed to start dry season in 19 days. What is that, like, in Florida? So, yeah, I was in Florida in February. I mean, it's, that was nice. God, I'd love to go back to Florida. Fleishy says, issues with taking photos. It opens the photo app, but when it's supposed to return to the app, it restarts the app because it was closed when it was put in the background for opening the photo app. That's weird. That shouldn't happen, should it? Like, I've done lots of Ionic version 1 applications, and I don't think we had that issue with any of them, because I'm just trying to think how that worked, because we did that with, we had an application for a company that was, some of these things I was about to tell you about, like NDAs, but so basically they could go through and take pictures of like stuff. So stupid. It was more advanced than that, but they part of it was they had to take pictures of it. In fact, we had one that we had quite a lot through Ionic actually, and that was that thing where you launch the camera, but that's when it goes into say I haven't used Capacitor, but that's when it was using the Cordova plugins, and that seemed to work fine on all the phones that we tried on, and we were using like really low, but like this is a Nexus 5, which is slow as a dog. I've got all these old Android phones, and we use a lot of these old Android phones on this kind of stuff, and I didn't have those kind of issues. Let's see. And Fleischer says, what is your recommendation for cross-platform iOS Android then? Sorry, you've been asked this so many times. Are you talking about for like push notifications only? If I was at push notifications, I would use Firebase, just because that keeps track of which one you're actually using. Now, if you're just gonna it depends how you use push notifications too. Like if you use push notifications where you're just sending out, you're broadcasting, you're sending out to all your users, that's easy, because then you can just send it out to everybody. But if you're doing it to specific users, then you have to keep track of like their APNS code, their tokens. So there's a Google, they both come back with some sort of, I'm trying to remember this, they're like some sort of GUID. I mean, it's not a GUID because it's, on iOS it's really long, but they got this token that comes back. So when you do register for push notifications, then you get this token back and you hold on to that, and then that's where you can send that through, and you store it at a database someplace, so that you just send that to the APNS, the Apple Push Notification Service, or the Firebase Cloud Messenger. If you're using both, like through iOS and Google through Firebase, then you just have that one port. You just like send it both through there, and it handles like which one it goes through. If that makes sense, like, you know, and again, and here we're talking about like push notifications only. If you're talking about like in general, I still like Flutter, even though I've been struggling with Flutter for the last, you know, few weeks on this one application. To the point where I was like, at one point I was like my son was here with me, and I was just like getting just angry at this thing. It was like, okay, I upgraded this dependency, but this dependency is now complaining, and then like, and then I was like, just this. I was getting so angry with it. But I mean, when you're starting a new build and everything, everything's, you know, good. So let's see. Rachel says, how do you cope with app pricing? Apple and Google treat the price differently, i.e. one is pre-tax and the other is post-tax. How do you cope with it, keeping it consistent? I always keep it like, again, I don't ever think, I mean, I guess I just don't think about the tax. It's like, to me, it's, you know, it's, I think I would, and it's probably being like, I doubt this has ever happened, but I always think if two people are using it and on different, like one's on Android, one's on iPhone, and they see the price is different on both of them, I kind of think that would kind of suck, right? I've seen that on certain applications before, and I thought, yeah, why would you do that? So I make sure that whatever the price they see, I want that to be consistent for both of them. And it's weird because on iOS you got the drop down bands, and on Google Play you could be a little bit more specific with it and everything like that. But yeah, I try to keep it as consistent between both of them. And I know that the tax is different through both of them, but you know, just try to keep enough margin in there that you shouldn't be sweating those kind of changes. Flashy says, or Dylan says, React Native. Oh, we're talking about cross-platform. Yeah, Dylan's a React Native fan. So there's so let's see. Flashy says, yeah, no, cross-platform in general, like Flutter, React Native, thanks to and so on. So yeah, what do we got? We got React Native, we got Ionic. I'm not the biggest Ionic fan. I think the whole, like, from the beginning, I did a video once about how I was going to stop using Ionic, and we use it for so many applications, and I still suffer to this day because everything's moved on, and you know, of course, they said they were going to, you know, they're going to keep up that development of those older platforms, but I mean, they can only do it for so long. I mean, and that's the same all across the board. Like, you use the latest Gradle version on Android, that's moved on too. I mean, it's kind of one of these things where, as much as I complain about the platform, like, I don't think there's any platform that you don't have, you know, oh, this compiled fine a year ago, but now all of a sudden there's work involved. And I think one of these days I'm going to get it through my fat head that when somebody asks me for something, I'll think, let me go see if it compiles first, and then I'll answer your question. But yeah, so we have Flutter, we got React Native, we've got Ionic, we've got Xamarin. Xamarin, I think if you're a .NET person, I think it makes a lot more sense. I don't know if you would like go into it from a, like, you know, just like that would be your first choice. Although if you're in a corporate job or corporate gig, then Xamarin makes a lot of sense because a lot of their developers might use Xamarin, and I think that's what I used a lot when I was working in investment banks and in publishing, a lot of publishing clients. And so a lot of stuff I did was .NET, and then I went into Ionic, and everything was, you know, JavaScript and everything. And when I went back to do some Xamarin stuff and using Link and everything like that, I was like, dude, I miss using just Link. I love loading up these objects and then being able to query it multiple times over rather than, you know, doing all these loops and stuff like that. So, yeah. So let's see. How to run a website says, sup, Eric, long time, no tuning in. Dude, I haven't been consistent at this at all. I've not been doing the live streams regularly. I just been, you know, like I said, it's always, ever since I moved it from Fridays to Mondays, now I realize how often Mondays, like we have, you know, like last few weeks we've had, in the last couple months rather, we've had a couple bank holidays here in England. We've had the Queen's funeral. We've had Memorial Day in the States, and there's always some reason to do stuff. So, and I hope everything is going well, mate. Yeah, it's going all right. Things are, they're, well, actually, like I said, downgrading the company, like business has been slow. I'm not gonna be like, how to lie to you. Business has been slow. So, if they make a lot of cuts, had to make a lot of looks, take a lot of look at things that were working, not working, and just sort of scaling down a little bit on a lot of things, personally and professionally, just like, okay, what's working, what's not working, what do we want to do going forward and everything like that. And that's, so it's a lot. I think a lot of it had to do with, I did a video about turning 50 when, back in July, or back in August rather, from Ireland. I was in Ireland, and it was just like this thing where it's like thinking, what's just evaluating loads of stuff. Like, where do I want to see myself in the future? What do I want to be doing? Who's, all that kind of stuff. So it's cool. Let's see. Fleishy says, luckily I wasn't drawn in the .NET world. I almost did when I was working as a student, but never really enjoyed it. Everything seemed so complicated compared to my Python background. Yeah, see, I was never a Python guy. Like, that's one of those ones that, like, when people talk about Python, it's like, that's like a different world to me. Like, I've just never been that way. For a while, the stuff I've tried, I played around with Ruby on Rails back when that was a huge thing, and of course the JavaScript stuff, using Lua with Corona, which is now Solar 2D, the .NET stuff, the JavaScript. JavaScript I love doing. I never really got much into TypeScript, although if I use TypeScript at all, it was like I'm using it like a JavaScript person would use TypeScript. So. But yes, so Joe says, so how's progress on your secret app you're working on? We'd love to test it out for you. We're trying to do a little bit of marketing on it, and it's not really for the public though. It was more like a corporate application. So it's it's one of these things where I think I need to get another developer on it to help out with it a little bit. I did it in Xamarin Forms. So like, it's something I've been working on for a few years, where I had a developer doing it for me in Flutter, and that was kind of going okay, but then he just, it wasn't working out. It's kind of the story of my life. And then we had somebody else doing it in Xamarin, and then finally I just took it over and I did it like in 2 weeks in the winter. So like, using the Firebase libraries so it's got the admin site, which I did in Blazor using Firebase as a backend. So I use a JavaScript bridge, and I don't really want to show it just yet, because like, I'm a bit shy. I'm not shy, but like, when I did the I want to see whether or not, I haven't really put the marketing budget into it yet, and I want to see if it works first before I talk about it. It's a very simple application. But thanks for asking about it, Joe. I will show you. I will show you once it's once I see whether or not it has any marketability. Fleishy says, I have a feeling that getting long-term projects, 6 to 12 months plus, is a lot easier than getting projects with a fixed scope of only 1 to 3 months. What's your experience, and also on your opinion on this? I think it depends on who the client is. I think for me, as a contractor, getting a 6-month contract is easier than getting a 1 to 3 month contract, just because a lot of times they want somebody to come in and work on different stuff. But if it's something like, if you're hiring somebody if you're doing like something on Upwork, I would think it would be very difficult to find someone who's looking for someone to work that long on a project. And in fact, probably one of the things I've struggled with a lot is doing fixed term projects, which should have been 1 to 3 months and end up being 6 to 12 months, because of just how requirements change and scope creep and all that kind of stuff. But let's see, how to run website.com, enterprise app, nice, hope it's going well, big rewards if you get it right. I've not, to be honest with you, I'm kind of like, I I've not been putting in the effort into it that I should have over the past 9 months. Like I just I'll work on it from time to time, but it's I've got a lot more time now, so I've been basically doing a lot more coding lately. So let's see. Dylan says, do you hire freelance on a project basis, or do you have a fixed team? I have a fixed team. So, but I'm like I said, I'm slimming it down. We had, but yeah, to me, I've always preferred to have a fixed team. Like I don't want to be, and this is one of the problems that I have is I'll have a fixed price project thing with a client, and then I'll have a team of fixed developers. But I'd rather have. I don't want the developer working on loads of other stuff at the same time. I want them to be focused on this one thing, because that's difficult when they're when it's a project-based thing and they're just you're trying to like, hey, where are we with this? I need this right away. And I'd rather have somebody who's I just find it easier with the fixed team. Rachel said, would you stick to the App Store at Google Play, or should it be listed on other stores like Amazon, etc.? I think you should try out Amazon. I kind of gave up on Amazon when I wasn't seeing the downloads that I was getting on Google Play, but other people have haven't had that trouble. So it kind of depends on whether or not, like, because you're using the in-app purchase library, you need to make sure you're supporting. If you're going to do in-app purchases, you need to make sure you're supporting the Amazon library or whatever. So to me, it was like it didn't hurt to release it in both places. But then after a while, it was like the screenshot sizes were slightly different. I think it's been a long time since I put anything on Amazon. But yeah, I think the stuff is still on there. I still get so every month I get like $3 or $4. No, 3 or 4. That's. I wish I got $3 or $4, and I get about like $1.50 or something from Amazon each month. And I was like, so yeah, that's still there. It's still making a little bit of money. But if you like EarSpy on Amazon, let me see if I can find it actually, because it was like people genuinely hate it. That was one of the things on Google Play when it was there. Let's see if I can find it on here. EarSpy. And the apps, apps and games. Here we go. It's still on here. Jeez, man. Oh, and all the copy. Okay, let me share my screen here. Oh, I haven't looked at this before. Okay, watch me get a little bit heated, a bit hotter in the collar. All right, here we go. Here's my EarSpy app, released in November 2012. All right, it's still on there. And here's all Super EarSpy, EarSpy Agent, whatever. So, yeah, the copycats came over here too. Yeah, they were like, they thought, they probably just assumed it worked well for me over here. I got 363 reviews. But like when I looked at the reviews on this one, this is the thing. They were just like nasty reviews. Actually, not so bad. Sneaky but a little help. Oh, it's not so bad. It's old though. It's crazy that it's still on there. Oh, wow. There's some good reviews on here. 2018. I'm absolutely impressed, but I'm not the type who takes the time to write reviews and make to anybody. However, this app is so great, I can actually... Hey, ooh, this is a good confidence boost here. All right, so Rachel, I changed what I said. Put it on Amazon. The last time I looked at this, it's probably like 4 years ago, and it was like all the reviews were just awful. They were terrible. This is like so old. Like these are my original screenshots, like from like 2012. This was it. All I had was like just those 3 screenshots. Wow. Jeez, that's a crazy. I wonder when's the most recent review we've had? Most recent. 2 years ago. Wow, it's really good. Rubbish. There we go. Rubbish. There we go. 5 stars in rubbish. That's, you guys know, if you guys have gotten reviews, you know what that's like. It doesn't make any sense, Or they'll say it's really good, and I'll give you 1 star. Review in the United Kingdom, not paranoid, just argument. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. Poor quality. for quality delay, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so it's still on there. That is surprising. So yeah, Rachel, put it on there. You might, you might be surprised. Let's see. It's a bit like social media. It depends on where your user base is. Yeah, but you never know where your user base is until you actually put stuff out there, right? For me, on social media, YouTube, I've done way better. If you look at my TikTok stats, so Ren on my team, she's been doing like the YouTube shorts that you see on the channel. She'll put those on the TikTok, and it's like, it's like you go in, there's like 3 views, 5 views. It's really it's very humbling, I guess, if I danced, if I danced on TikTok, maybe maybe we'd do better, but we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know unless we start putting stuff out there. I didn't know YouTube would work out. So at least Amazon is paying for coffee once a month. Yeah, coffee, not a nice coffee, but yes, it's, I'll have to look at that. There might still be a market there. I'm still ranking top over all those copycats. How to Read a Website says, Eric, have you read the Lean Startup book? Great. Sell before you build, find clients before you build it. It can help inspire. Yes, I mean, the MVP, it's on my shelf over here. Boo. Of course I've read it. Yeah, so it's like the MVP stuff. And in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek, he talks about, selling it before you actually build it. And that's kind of what we were doing with this thing. We started with cold emails using hunter.io and just do the cold email and using LinkedIn Sales Navigator, reaching out. Did not get a lot of traction with that. And then we started doing Facebook ads. I should probably start looking at doing LinkedIn ads, but yeah, it's something that I should probably reread it. It's been a while since I've read that book. Let's see. Steve Barrows. Hi, Eric. Hey, Steve. How's it going? Thanks for saying hi. So there's one. Okay, let's talk about, since we that was the last comment. We on the Discord channel. Let me just share my screen again. We got this. So for those guys on Discord channel, I do look at the Discord channel, but we got this comment on the bench thing this morning from EarthMove1. Eric. Oh, sorry, he didn't ask Eric. He asked everybody. He has a group. So you guys, if you want to go give him some advice. How long does it take to become a programmer? LOL. I know it's like asking how long is a piece of string. The obvious answer to the piece of string is it's longer than guessable distance, but shorter than infinity. But truly, I am pushing this hard, and it's pushing back equally as hard. It's like Newton's third law of murder. Third law is trying to murder what is left of my brain cell population. Well, for all of you who have turned into art a job and a way of life, I salute you. You did what I consider to be darn near impossible, but I responded, it's still just a job, and it's a skill. And it was one of these things that I thought, it was a good comment. I guess I need to see my back to. So yeah, it was a good. It was one of those things where I responded just saying because a lot of people asked us over the years, how long does it take to become a programmer? And it's like saying how long to become anything with any kind of skills. Like you start off small and then you build up, right? A lot of times when you're working with really good developers, like if you're working in a team of developers and you're like the least skilled developer, most of the guys will well, it depends. It depends on the team and the egos involved, but a lot of the time they'll be like, they're willing to support you as long as you go in there, you're humble. You're like, hey, I'm just getting started. I could do this really well, but I'm really good at whatever databases or web or whatever. But I've never done this, and I'm trying to get better at it. And because we all know what it's like to start out, and to talk about what it's like to become a professional, it really depends on what your definition of professional is. And I think I was saying I think I said something about if you're a musician and you only play one song, but somebody will play that one song, then you could say you're a professional musician. But you're a professional musician that only knows one song. Or if you're a magician and you only know card tricks, and someone hires you as a professional magician, you better make sure they know that, okay, all I know is card tricks. I'm still trying to pick up some other stuff, but just so you know, like I'm a card trick magician, or I know 3 card tricks or whatever. So it's like whatever you can find somebody to pay you for, and you're good at that one thing, and you don't pretend to do something that you're not, then I think that makes sense. Now, if you're somebody who could, like, if you're a magician, like you go in, I want to, I'm a magician and I could do anything a magician could do, then you're like, first of all, that would be pretty awesome because you make the Statue of Liberty disappear. But at the same time, it's, I think we all have various levels of skill, and we all get paid based on the level of skill that we have. And sometimes we have skills that we're really concrete on, like I know this part really well. This part, it's a little bit far outside my comfort zone, but because I have all this other experience, like that's just a matter of time before I get that and stuff like that. So I was wondering what you guys thought about that, but it's interesting. Let's see. How to run the website? Yeah, Hunter.io seems like a good choice. I did like it, but it was like we just weren't getting the response back that I was hoping for. Steve Barrows says, I got kicked out of Google AdMob. Oh, my appeal got rejected and quit the mobile app development career. Now full-time web developer. Is that working well for you with the web stuff? I mean, because AdMob is just one avenue to. I mean, there's other ad networks. Like, unless you get kicked out of if you get kicked out of Google Play, that's a pain. That really is a pain, and you just have to keep appealing that. But that's the thing. Like, if AdMob kicks you out, I've those apps get we've disabled your ads in AdMob. So if you have a mediation network, sometimes those will take over. But let's see. Flashy says, as a developer, I find it quite hard selling something before you've got it, especially B2B. If they want your solution, they usually want it now, and developing it after the sale takes a lot of time. Yeah, it's that's true, and that's kind of one of the things I thought. But it's like you just gotta let them know. Like if you were to say, hey, we've got this big thing that's in development, like basically what you're doing, you're selling it, but you're not selling it. Basically, you're saying let's say, okay, you guys, I don't know if it was like in the countries that you guys are in, but here in England, there's like always new build developments. There's always some new housing project that's, not housing project, like, construction workers and all this stuff, building like a new neighborhood. And they're selling those houses. They're selling those houses that are not done. Now, but they're, we know that they're building them. Like if you could sell something, say, hey, we're building this application. You probably want to be able to get paid for it right away. But maybe you could do something like, get them to register their interest. Because if you get people to register their interest and say that yes, they will pay for it, or they'll pay a little bit now so they can get like a discounted price later or whatever. That's something you could possibly do. But imagine you had a project that you knew that I've got 10 corporations that are they've expressed their interest, they're ready to buy, they're just ready to do it. First of all, they would be able to have some input onto what kind of features it has, right? But also if you needed to take out a loan or whatever to get that thing over the finish line, that's going to be a lot easier when you can say, okay, I've got guaranteed revenue from this. I have revenue projections, as opposed to I'm just going to build it and hope it takes off, which is kind of the way that I'm going. Let's see. Rachel says, I struggle with getting my head around selling. Plus, you need a portfolio to show what you can do. Catch 22. That's true. I mean, the portfolio thing is like, it's important. It's like, if you were going to sell yourself on anything, you should be, like if you were to sell yourself as a writer. Like I've had people like contact me in the past where we'd like, to do content writing, and I go, can you show me an example of something you've written? And they can't, which is weird. That's bizarre. Like, like if you're going to hire an app developer, you go, show me an example of something you've done, and they go, I can't. Now, I had this conversation this afternoon, actually, with a potential client. She was saying, can you show me some examples of stuff you've done in this area? I'm like, well, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, that I've done has been under NDA, so I would need to talk to them first in order to do that. So it's not like I could just go to the App Store and download their application, because that'd be kind of weird. But let's see, Captain Michael J2, hey, how's it going? Hey, Eric, I finally launched my iOS app and have had some positive feedbacks. Cool. Now I submitted an application to an accelerator, but I am doubting if the accelerator is any useful. I only submitted the application because there was some government grant. Oh, okay, I've never used an accelerator, so I don't know very much about it. Everything I've done has been self-bootstrapped, and maybe it would have done better like if I did something like that. I think I've always just been, I don't know. I've never had that kind of confidence to say, to try to get those grants. But good for you. Fist up was like, "What's up, Eric? Hey, what's up? How are you?" Oh, my throat. It's all right. So, Dylan tells Steve Barrows, "That sucks. I was out of AdMob for a few months and couldn't figure out why. Turned out when I removed Apple integration, AdMob unblocked me after a few days. Probably too many requests." Interesting. Fist up says, "Got a SharePoint proposal with a decent pay. What do you advise?" I don't know. Shoot yourself. SharePoint, really? I hate SharePoint. I hate SharePoint so much. That used to be my thing. It was like I was working in this consultancy, right? And we're doing stuff in like Silverlight and all this stuff. We have the CRM that we're building on top of, and then and the owner of the company came in and said, "We're gonna start doing SharePoint." I was like, "All right," and it was like, and the more I started using SharePoint, and this was SharePoint 2010. This was a while ago. But I remember thinking like, I would just like say, "I hate SharePoint. I hate it again." And it was like, and everyone would rave about it, but then they would like lose stuff, and that was kind of became this. It was weird because I was brought in because I use it all the time, and I just moaned about it the whole time, like doing SharePoint development, doing the C# stuff. In fact, using the SharePoint lists and the object models and everything like that, I got so tired. Like, it was so slow to deploy it because I had to use a virtual machine. I was on Windows, but I had to have back then you had to have like Windows Server running in a virtual machine on your hard drive unless you're actually coding on the server, and so I was like doing these custom components, but in the end I was just writing my API, which would read from the lists and use it like into jQuery, and I was just doing everything client side because I was getting like so fed up with it. And it was like this real thing where talk about being that guy who's just like, I was like not big on SharePoint, but good for you. I mean, it's good pay. That's one thing you say. It's decent pay, and that's true. Because we try to it was like I complained so much about because it was gonna be me and some other developers working on it, and then the other developers left, and I was like just me doing the SharePoint stuff, and I was just like so angry. I was like, and so we kept trying to hire other SharePoint developers, and these guys would come in, and it turned out they were more configuration based. They said they were developers, but they never did any C# and stuff. Like they would say like, "Oh, you just use this using statement where you pass in the string of the site that you're on, and then all this you read this stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't want to hard code that into is there a config I could put in there?" And they go, I'm like, seriously? Like that would be one of the things that you're going to deploy to dev and production. You need I have to change that in code every single time? But I'm sure it's not that bad. I think probably opposite. This is, like I said, a while back, and since it went to Office 365, I'm sure it's a lot better. But every time I hear SharePoint, I kind of twitch a little bit. Let's see. Fletchy says, if you put your B2B apps on the official app stores, or do your clients... do you put your B2B apps on official app stores, or your clients prefer the private method of distributing the app if it's only for the specific company? I've had both. I've had both ways. So I've done most of the time. I said let's just put it on the app store. That's what I've tried to do. Like, if it's a walled garden and you have to you have to actually sign in when you get in there. I think that to me that makes the most sense. Like it's. And I have had clients say, "What if somebody else downloads the app?" And I'm like, dude, if it was that easy for people to download it, like what if somebody just downloads it and they don't even and it's like, do you know how hard it is to get people to download apps these days? You think people are just randomly downloading apps? So I try to get them to do that way. It's easier. It's easier all around. I have some clients that use they want to do it through their own distribution, so they use the enterprise distribution certificate. So they actually set up the enterprise account, and then you could actually compile it and then distribute it through a website. They have to go through it, like you distribute through a website, but they have to go through and actually trust the application. So that it becomes this whole, like, I think it's so much easier to say go to the App Store. And then there's the other way we've done it, which is it used to be called I think it's called Apple Business Center. So they changed the name of it, but it used to be called the Volume Distribution Service or something. So, but it was like, so that you can actually, so I have like an app that is on my App Store setting, but only clients from their, only their users can see it on the App Store. So they actually download to the App Store. So if I make an update, I only make it in the one place, and that's easier too. They all have their downsides. First of all, if it's just the App Store, then anybody can use it. Like they could just say, hey, give you a login, download the app, right? Easy. If it's like through the volume distribution program, whatever it's called now, I wish I could remember what it's called. I remember it's ABC, I think. But like, so then they have to set up all their users' devices on their whatever enterprise. Which becomes, like, then it becomes less flexible because, my assumption is like, it's better if you could use your own device. You're at work, you use your own device, that's what you should do. All right, and then the other way is the actually having like a web page, and they can use their own network to like restrict that stuff. So, let's see. Dylan says, "Did you waste a lot of money hiring people?" Yes, I used to do everything myself, even app icon design. Now I hired a designer, and I'm not happy with the result. His portfolio looked awesome though, dude, Dylan. Dude, you know what? I'm gonna go pour some whiskey, and I'm just gonna sit here and just. And then there was this other guy. I can remember them all. I can remember Leo said, he was like Yes, I know that's tough. You got to make sure that when you hire somebody, you do not. You give a task early on to find out if they're good at it. Like I was like, especially when I first started, the first person I hired. It was a developer called Leo. He was in the Philippines, and he had the skills. His portfolio looked good, and I think he was working multiple full-time jobs. Like I think it was like this thing where he would disappear, and it was always like, oh, nearly done. I'm like, okay, check it in. I want to see it. Oh, no, nearly done. When I say check it in, that was it. Oh, my internet went down or whatever. It was awful. I still get angry when I think about him. It's like years ago. Oh, thanks everybody for the likes, by the way. I just noticed that some of you guys liked it. But yeah, it was years ago. And it was like, I still get angry when I think about it. I was like, And there's been others. So like it got to the point where I got a lot more like, here's your task. I want it to be done by this Friday. We have the daily summary thing, where it's just like, I want to know each day what you're working on. Like it's just so, so I can see what it is. And I'll say, they always started the same way, where they say, I'm working on the such and such project. I'm like, yeah, I know that, but like, it was an 8-hour day. What did you do in that 8-hour day? Like, you can't just say, I was working on it. Like, it's like, you did something. You wrote a function. You did whatever. So that got a bit difficult, and it depends. Like if I work with an outsourced team, like if I'm working with another developer big company, like they've got other people to manage those people, and in some ways it's a little bit easier. Except you're dealing with somebody, like you can't ask a technical question of this project manager because the other developer is like skittish or whatever. Like, can I just talk to the developer? Like, he's not really good with people. I was like, yeah, I know, he's a developer. Like, let me talk to him. But yes, I am like, yeah, Dylan, I have. Captain Michael says, they said startups fail faster if they join an accelerator, and it seems accelerators are basically seed round VCs rebranding themselves. But I'm also tired of being the Lone Ranger. Yeah, I get that. Mr. Fu was found says, "Hi Eric, I submitted an app in Google Play Console 2 days ago and it's still in review. How long does it take usually to review the app and get it published?" It's like Google Play takes forever now. But usually it's pretty quick. It depends. Like if it's a new application and if there's a privacy policy, like that's usually what it is. Like I've had one take like 7 or 10 days. It was like a ridiculous amount of time. And then finally they came back and said, your privacy policy is not good enough or whatever, which means like you have something in there where they had to have a closer look at it, and then they came back on it. So I've had it take 10 days before. Back in 2012, 2013, 2014, you could it took like 2 hours. It was live. But then, Google keeps getting in trouble for obvious reasons, and then they keep getting more restricted. Now we got to say whether or not our app is a news app. Now we have to say whether or not our app is a COVID tracking app, as if how many of them are, do we all have to answer that question? Let's see. Captain Michael says, "How do you deal with developer loneliness?" I drink. Maybe you don't feel it much. That's a joke. Maybe you don't feel it much because you have a team. But any tips? No, I do feel it. I said, that's definitely. It is a lonely profession. It really is. Especially when you work from home. There's times where you're just like. I check the fridge 3 times an hour. I'll just, make myself coffee, to the point where I'm like, oh, yeah. But no, there's that thing. It's like you kind of you sit down, you're working on something, and then you get that moment where you're kind of lonely. But there's that loneliness, and it's nice if you're working in a team because you do have other people to talk to. But even with my team, they weren't there wasn't all that much I could talk to them about because they weren't because we're working on stuff. So usually when you get in that flow state, though, you know what it's like. I mean, for those guys are, if you do work from home and you got family around or your spouse or whatever, it's like when you get into that flow state and you're like the rest of the world just sort of disappears. Like you put some music on, but the album ended 3 hours ago because you're just like, okay, and then this, and that's the best. When you just turn off all distractions and you get into that flow state, and you're kind of hoping that happens again. That's when somebody says, "Hey, Dad, what time's dinner?" or whatever, and you're like, I'm getting so much done." So it's it can be a bit difficult, but it's. We all deal with it. That the loneliness of being a developer. I think it's one of those things where you start to value the time that you get from your family and friends. And that's one of the things where, for me, I started going out a lot more. Going to go to the boxing class, or go to just go to the gym, just to be around people. And other human beings. Rather than just sit and watch Netflix on my giant TV. Alan Weber. Hey, that's going. Alan Wroolie, my cousin. Hey, Eric, good to see you're doing well. Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. Let's see. Floody Dev. Hello, Floody Dev. Thanks very much for that. So, let's see. Captain Michael J2 says, "But I have no friends." Dude, man, join the club. No, it's weird because, okay, so for me as a developer, I think I've always just been very introverted. I think that's why we could do the job that we do, because we're introverted. We're I'm not the kind of guy who walks into a place and high fives everyone. Although in my wildest dreams, I would love to go down to the pub and be like, "Yo, what's up?" Down the back, just pop, pop, pop. But that never happens, right? That's just So to me, sometimes you just got to go places and just be out in public and do that awkward thing. I think over here you got the pub culture. So one of the reasons I do like to go to the pub is because usually if you're there by yourself, somebody will start talking to you. Sometimes it could be an old guy telling you his conspiracy theories, or it could be some people who are just they just kind of feel sorry for you and let them join your group or whatever. And then after a while, you kind of you just build those relationships, and that's kind of nice. So, but yeah, you just got to get out there more often. And that's the thing. I'm assuming Captain Michael. Yeah, as a guy, I don't know if we find it more difficult to go out and talk to like other, you know, like just start random conversations. When I was in school, when I was in high school, and I was always like, I was the quiet one. Like it was like I would have a couple, like if I got a friend, I would be so like I would cling to that person like just so I didn't have to stand by myself. But a lot like thoughts. I changed schools every year, so when I was in high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade were all 4 different schools. So it was like a lot of the time it was just me sitting by myself, or go sit in a library and read, and mainly just do it because back in those days you couldn't pretend you were looking at your phone, and you just sitting there staring off into space was kind of weird. That would be very like Napoleon Dynamite. So you just be like, go sit in the library or just eat your lunch in the corner or whatever, and just not have those those kind of experiences. But then eventually, like someone take pity on you and let you join their group or whatever. And I was always the quiet one who never really said much. And a lot of times I still see myself that way. And people will say like, no, you seem to be pretty extroverted. I'm like, I in my mind, I'm still that scared guy. Like the amount of times I gone to networking events and I thought, okay, I'm going to go out to networking events. I'm going to talk Overpass. I'm going to press the flesh. I'm going to hand out the business cards, and I'll go there and I'll just be like, hang around the coffee machine or whatever. Like not even like talk to people, just, whatever. So, let's see. Alvaro says, hey, Eric, has it ever happened to you that a client wanted a clone of a famous application? If it happened to you, what would you suggest doing to estimate the cost? I think the first thing I would do is look at like Code Canyon and stuff like that. So we had one that they wanted a game, and it was for like a trade show event. So they weren't releasing it to the App Store. They wanted something like, I think it wasn't Flappy Birds, but it was something similar. This was a while ago. And so, of course, there was loads of stuff on Chupa Mobile and Code Canyon where you just buy this code for reskinning. And to me, that was like, all right, but if we get away from just doing that, just brand everything for them, then if it's not like an App Store thing, we don't have to worry about like getting in trouble with it. Then that kind of works. I think I have had people say, I want an app like Tinder, but for whatever, dogs or whatever. And then that's when you have to start saying, like on a surface level, that sounds really easy. Like, swipe, 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 load the images, whatever. But then you start thinking about, okay, you still need to define, like, you can't just say like this. You got to say, okay, that application does loads of stuff, has loads of infrastructure back end, has this algorithm that's proprietary, all this kind of stuff. So, like we could do something similar to it, but it will be very limited, and also the server space and all that kind of stuff. So I think you need to make sure that they understand that when they say they want something like something else, that you limit, that you manage those expectations. So does that make sense? Because otherwise, that's where scope creep comes in. They go, yeah, but like if it was like, say, like a dating app, say, yeah, but Tinder does this, and what you did doesn't do that. And you're like, dude, they've got like a huge development team, and you're just like, you're paying $3,000 for this, and they paid hundreds of thousands probably, or millions, or whatever. Who knows? Dylan says, maybe work from co-working space. Yes. So like next week, I'm gonna be in Croatia, and I'm planning on working in a co-working space. So that's something I've never done. Like that, like those guys have been watching the channel for a while. I used to have an office. I've had a couple offices over the course of the past few years, and now I just work from home. And when I actually hired somebody to work in the office with me, it was weird because I liked being alone in the office. Like I liked having that quiet, even just doing videos and stuff like that. But I like having that solitary, that place I could go, my bat cave. Like my office, it started off being like very professional. Like if a client comes in, they can sit there, and I got my desk here, whatever. And after a while, it was like, I'll get a little basketball hoop, and I'll get all this. It was just like after a while, it was just my place to go, and where I didn't even like if I had a client I had to meet, I would hire a meeting room or like rent a meeting room because I didn't want them coming back to my messy office. But Captain Michael says, Eric, what other tips do you have for me in a networking, aka a party where people pretend to like each other and be superficial? That's the killer for introverts like us. It is, but it's. I don't. A lot of times if you just go in and you're honest. This is my like it's nothing to do with that, but I think I think there's a lot to be said for just being humble and honest, and just you're going in and just because you're introverted and you don't feel comfortable talking to people doesn't mean you don't have anything to say, and doesn't mean you don't have a sense of humor, and doesn't mean that you can't like really express yourself. It's we've all met people who just seem like you ever met somebody who's really quiet, so you think, oh, I'll start a conversation with them, and they're so dull, they're so like you're like, okay, obviously there's not a lot going on behind those blank eyes. I was kind of hoping that was just bring that out, but but just because you're introverted, you still have stuff that you're interested in. I find it's weird because if I go out, like I'm never gonna see somebody who no, I'm never going to see somebody who wants to talk about, like, what do you think about React Native versus Flutter? I'm like, cool, you asked the right person. Like, that never happens. Like, so it's like, we talk about, a lot of times, what I hate talking about? The weather. Oh, when I moved to England and I was like working, so when I moved to England and I had my first job in an office, and you'd be standing at the toilets at the urinal, and somebody else stand up next to you, and I go, plans for the weekend? Because it's just a conversation starter. But I thought it was creepy that some guy standing next to you urinating, asking you what you're doing this weekend. It kind of creeped me out a little bit. I was like, I'm very busy this week. But apparently that's just a conversation starter. But I don't know if I have any other tips. But Mr. Frugal, it's found, says thank you. You're welcome. I forgot what question that was. Oh yeah, the thing about that. So Captain Michael says, Dylan, thank you for the advice. That's a good idea. I mean, I am good looking, so maybe people will talk to me. Yeah, just I think that's just it. Like the hard bit about it's like going out someplace is you just need to go out someplace in public, and what's weird is because you don't really have an agenda. Like you're not going out. Like it'd be creepy if you're like, I'm gonna go out there and make some new friends. Like it's like it's like then there's like this weird serial killer vibe to that. So like if you just go out and just be somewhere in public, and then maybe you got that weird thing where it's like some other guy sitting next to you, whatever, and then you try to say something clever, and then they just sort of like, and then there's like no feedback, whatever. And they're like, okay then. Like, the only thing is co-working spaces are overly priced. Yeah, probably. Let's see. Fistel will say, any plans for the weekend? The weekend has plans for me, that's for sure. Liam says, hello. Hi, Eric. Hey, everyone. Hey, Liam, how's it going? I think, we're at an hour. We're an hour in, are we? Let's see. I wonder if we should wrap this baby up. What do you think? Hey, I know some of you guys just joined, but thanks everyone for liking and subscribing. For those guys who subscribed, probably I don't know if I'm doing from next week. I'm not sure what my situation is gonna be like next week. I'll be in Croatia in Split. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a live stream. Again, I went into this one thinking that maybe we'll let's see. I was thinking about maybe this will be the last live stream, but this is too much fun. Liam says, funny, I was just talking about this when I read this article. Spain plans digital nomad visa scheme to attract remote workers. That's what, so I plan on going to Croatia. I'll be going to Croatia next week, and I'll be working from there. And so I'm going to get a co-working space and have all the meetings and all that kind of stuff. And then I booked a flight in November to go to Faro in Portugal. but it's still kind of up in the air. Depends on how next week goes, whether or not that working remotely it actually works. But I'm going to really try to make that work. Joe says, do these every week. It would be fun. This is, you know what? You don't know how much, like, talking about being the loneliness of a developer. You guys don't know how much these live streams lift my spirits. I've had a pretty rough weekend, so this really does lift my spirits. I appreciate that. Let's see. Captain Michael says, Liam's profile pic is customized, not the default person. I know, he's all, Liam, oh, it is customized, actually. I thought it was, I didn't even get that. Joe, he does. Flash says, bye-bye, have a great week. You guys have a great week, too. Captain Michael says, Eric, will you give it badges to users? I find it useless, but my friends like the idea. To me, I'm like, a lot of that, I find it difficult. I always thought it felt condescending, like, here's a little hat for you. Here's a little badge. There you go. You know, I think, like on the Discord server, I think there's like ways that you could give people special badges. And that just seems like, who the hell am I? Like, you know, we're not children. Like, you know, here's a gold star for you. There you go. To me, it just seems condescending. So that's why I've never really done it. So let's see. Later's Eric. All right, everybody. I'm going to call, let's call a live stream. Everyone, thanks for joining. It's been really great. It's been fun talking to you guys. I hope you guys have a great week ahead. I'll try to get some videos out this week. But you know, it's, like I said, I've just been under loads of stuff. But you know, which I don't know if I'll tell you guys about. But I hope you guys have a great week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and let's you know, I'll definitely talk to you guys from Croatia at some point. So talk to you guys later. Bye.